Hey everybody, welcome back to Around the Emirates podcast with Sara Mousa, where I speak to guests for curiosity about topics you want to hear about. Today I'm joined by the amazing Amina. Hi Amina.
Hi, Sarah. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you for having me today.
Of course, thank you so much for being here. So Amina Shazib is a licensed psychologist. She is a specialist in anxiety and depression, and she also supports children with special needs. Hi Amina, thank you so much for joining the show. Please tell me your story and what got you started.
Thank you so much for having me today. So in terms of my story, since my early age, I've always been intrigued by how the human behavior works, why people do what they do, which led me to take psychology as my major in my bachelor's and my master's. So basically, I got married very young at the age of 21. So I could only do my bachelor's and did my master's after having two children. So, and again, after having my master's, I had my third child. So there were gaps. There was a big gap from my education to my professional journey. So after having the third child, I didn't know where to start. So I went to see my head of department in Middlesex University, Dubai, Dr. Anita Kashi, and I asked her, "Oh, how do I start? Where do you want me to begin with? And what do I do to begin?" And she said, "Amina, for you, I would say two things. The first is research because you're really good at it. And the second is special needs because that's an emerging field. And I want you to explore that. I feel you will do really well in that." And that's, I'm talking about back in 2016, 2017. And I did not come across many people of determination before that. So I was very confused. What do I start with? So I leave Dr. Anita Takashi's office and I'm on the road. I shouldn't have, but I take my phone and I type in my Safari special needs centers name. And it tells me that from this particular signal, take left. So I take left. I end up at Riverside Children's Center, amazing, amazing facility. Back in 2017-18, unfortunately, the shutdown due to COVID. So I end up there. I go in, speak to the receptionist that I would just like to volunteer because to begin, I just need to understand what it entails, what it is about. So they told me the manager will get back in touch. It was Thursday evening, Thursday afternoon, and back then Sunday was the first working day. So the manager contacts me that evening and she asks me for my degrees, the police clearance certificate, and asks me to join on Sunday. And this is how my journey started. I stumbled upon special needs. And that for first year in that center, I worked as a volunteer. They offered me the job, by the way, in the first 2 months. But for me, before doing anything, I need to know what I'm doing. So I refused the opportunity. I said, look, just let me volunteer. I want to learn. And I gave myself the time to grow, to learn. I did a postgraduate diploma in special needs, flew to UK to do a training in SERDs. So different approaches, different programs, just to equip myself fully. And then after 1 year, they said, you know what, we're not going to give you LSC position anymore. We are going to open a classroom for you. You'll work now as a classroom teacher, the lead teacher. Unfortunately, they were amazing. So unfortunately, the center shut down in COVID. And then I moved to the Development Talent Center, where I am currently working as the head of the program there. So yeah, so the journey was very interesting, ups and downs, but it has been nothing but rewarding and fulfilling so far. I wouldn't have it any other way.
I love that. I love the fact that it was something that you kind of stumbled upon, but you realized it was part of your journey to end up where you are today. And it's amazing what you do. The fact that you have such a strong experience, as the fact that you are doing something that you love so much, and with that comes a few challenges. What kind of experiences and challenges did you go through?
Uh, so the challenges are for me personally, they have been emotional to be honest. And there were a different kind of emotional challenges in the beginning of my career when I started off. Because, like I said earlier, I was not exposed to many children of determination. So, when I started off, my teacher, the teacher of that classroom where I was working with children between the ages of 3 years to 8 years, I wouldn't understand and I would ask her questions. Why is this child jumping and why is he running and why is he not able to follow instructions? And the teacher, she gave me a physical book. It was called The Reason I Jump. which was written by a 13-year-old autistic boy, Japanese autistic boy, his experience, why he does things, and what could be the possible reason. So basically, autism is very vast. How each child experiences it is very different. So you can never say this is the reason. But that did open up a door for me to understand what could be the potential reason, what could be happening inside that little brain, and how best to approach the child, how to help them. And I would like to you, Sarah, the first 4 weeks or 5 weeks, even 2 months after reading that book, I would cry every day because once you understand where they're coming from, it really shakes you. So that emotional journey was very hard for me. And it's physical as well because you're up and down, running behind the children. Many of them, they cannot eat themselves. Many of them, they cannot help themselves with toileting. So you are there in the journey with them. So it's physically taxing, it's emotionally draining. I would come home every day and I would tell my husband would ask me, "Are you going back tomorrow?" I'd be like, "One more day." So that whole year was like day by day journey. But in terms of now the emotional aspect is different. Now emotionally, I feel like I cannot detach myself from my children because once you work with those small young angels who are not able to advocate for themselves, you are their advocate. Their success is your success, and their challenge is your challenge. So you come home and you keep on thinking about them. That am I doing the right thing? Am I giving them the opportunity to grow, to progress, or am I not doing it right? I need to do more. So that detachment never takes place. So even if the child moves on to a school, to another setting, to another country, we're always messaging the parents, checking on them. Are they okay? Come back in touch with me. Message me if you need anything. So you are attached to them fully emotionally. So that detachment doesn't come. You're always thinking about them.
That's so
So yeah,
beautiful, though.
that I would consider a challenge.
But it's also like such a human element of you, right? It shows the humanity in your story. The fact that it may be a challenge when you get attached to them and like spend so much emotional investment in them, but at the same time, you're doing something that makes you happy and it drives such a strong impact in their lives. And that leads me to my next question to you. Is there a moment you feel in your journey or experience that had a really big impact on you?
Yeah, there were moments. I would like to mention this certain situation which was in the initial stages of my career. I was working as a class teacher, and that moment made me think. But I'll tell you about it. So there was this young child, 4 or 5 years old, and in the classroom we had square tables, which had a kind of a sheen finish on top of a wooden surface. So the child, I was his teacher, so we would work 2 to 3 times at the table. So there would be times of the day he would come happily to the table, sit down, do 3 activities with me. And then there would be a moment he would walk towards the table and he would react as if he had seen a snake. So he would be screaming, distressed on the floor, 10 steps away from the table, wouldn't even want to move close to it. And I wouldn't be able to identify us teachers. We were three in the classroom. It was very hard to understand what's going on because our children do have sensory issues, difficulties, but they are quite consistent. If a child is sensitive to loud noise, you would know that which noise is really triggering. But this one was very different in different times of the day. So then we started recording the behavior. This is how we try and identify the possible reasons. So we started recording. After a while, we thought that possibly it's that table. Is it the sheen on that table which is triggering him? So then we covered that tabletop with a brown paper, and the child started coming every single day to work all the time. So possibly at different times of the day, because one side of that room was glass wall. So perhaps the light, the sunlight, when it reflected on that table, it really triggered it. It made him very uncomfortable and caused that distress that he wouldn't want to come to it. So after it made me realize, it made me think that those little things, which as educators, as parents, as therapists, as the people who are supporting these children, you don't really take them seriously, and they make a huge difference. They can hinder or facilitate the learning journey of a young child. For example, many parents come to us asking about my child, I want to toilet train them. Little do they realize that in toileting, it's not just basic toileting. In the toilet seat, the temperature of the toilet seat is a factor. The depth of the toilet seat for us, it's we can see, but with child who has challenges with, understanding the depth and perception, their perception is challenged. He would think it's a tunnel. So sitting on the toilet seat is very hard for him. Then the smell in the toilet of those cleaning materials could be a trigger as well. Then the light, is it too dark, too light, too bright? Then the size of the toilet, is it too big, too small? There's so many factors apart from the basic journey of sitting and going to the experience of relieving themselves. Even before that, there's so many factors which need to be considered to support the children. So that particular incident really made me stop and think that what could be the factors there which could affect our children. So then we can only support them fully.
I love that though. I love the fact that you are opening all of our eyes to these smaller things. Like we don't think about things like the smell of the toilet seat or the smell of the, I don't know, candle in the room or the brightness, like the level of brightness in a room. So it's so important. And I'm so grateful that you're using this podcast to kind of raise awareness for this because these are things we don't think about. And this takes me to my final question for you today, Amina. Is there something specific that you want the listeners and viewers today to take away from this episode?
So I'm a big advocate of neuroformative approach, which means that we always believe in children's strengths. And sometimes when they're not able to show us their skills or what they have learned, the learning is there. So, assuming competence, presuming competence is the term that we used in our approach, that we always believe in our children, we always equip them, we always empower them, we support them. Our role there is to open the pathways and be there for them, and they will learn. And it also reminds me of this picture that I saw on Instagram the other day, which had a zoomed in picture of a child walking on a flat surface. And underneath that picture, it said, my child has hit a plateau, he's not making any progress. And immediately next to that, there was another picture zoomed out of that version in which there was a big mountain, and right in the middle of the mountain, there was a small plateau step. Right. And underneath it said that these are just the small steps in the big picture. The child has indeed made huge progress. And this message goes out to all those people, parents, teachers, therapists, all of the people working with our children, is that sometimes you may feel the child is not making progress, but in a big picture, they are. They really are. So we need to celebrate those small steps.
I love that.
So this would be my message for them.
I love that. I think that applies to everybody, celebrating the small things. We're so carried away by our day-to-day corporate jobs and by our like the time that we spend working on projects, entrepreneurs and just forgetting that the smaller things are also part of the bigger picture. So thank you so much for sharing that important message on the show today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.